What effect will using drawing have on a student's ability to write a music reflection with detailed content, voice, and word choice? This study compared writing products of 22 8th grade orchestra students. The purpose of the study was to analyze whether drawing while listening to a musical selection helped students in their writing process. Quantitative analysis was used to analyze student writing data. Students wrote 2 sets of musical reflections. Each set of reflections consisted of 4 writings that took place over 4 days. The first set was written while listening to a musical selection. The second set was written after students drew artistic representations of what was heard or felt emotionally while listening to the musical selection. An analysis of the 2 sets of writings revealed several important findings. Data revealed growth in whole class mean scores in the area of content, voice, and word choice. Data also revealed that girls benefit more than boys by having the opportunity to draw before writing a musical reflection. Individual students whose scores increased ranged from 0.5 to 2.25 points with a total possible score of 15. The differences in writing scores between the 2 sets of student writings indicate that changes in writing performance were probably due to incorporating drawing and writing. In the field of music education, self-expression and creativity is central to what is taught and how students learn. However, as students are instructed to write musical reflections in the orchestra classroom, results of their efforts are often disappointing. Writing is not just for the language arts classroom. In an orchestra classroom, students need to be able to express themselves clearly when writing musical reflections. So the questions become, would incorporating drawing while listening before writing change the outcome of a final written product? And what effect will using drawing have on a student's ability to write a music reflection with detailed content, voice, and word choice? Research supports the need for students to connect with writing through drawing. Researcher Kratos explains that while active listening in the music classroom is a vital experience for student musicians, it becomes difficult to observe what students are learning when the activity takes place inside a person's head. Teachers must find ways of making the covert behavior overt by asking students to translate a mental, musical operation into something observable, like words, movements, or drawings. Engaging all students in the writing process requires differentiation. Researchers Todd and Mishra challenge educators to use a variety of listening activities. They state that it is important to reach all learners in the classroom. Some students may benefit from the opportunity to write about what they hear. Others may benefit from kinesthetic opportunities or the experience of drawing what they hear. Students need to be able to analyze what they are hearing within a musical work and describe how that musical work stirs them emotionally. Another researcher, Davidson, states, the drawing and writing series is a way of working and a way of thinking. It encourages the learner to think in at least 2 modes, each expanding and clarifying the thinking of the other. The drawing and the writing process involves documenting layers of thought and using each layer as a stepping stone to another layer. The setting for this study was a middle school in one of the 3 large suburban school districts in the greater Kansas City area in Kansas. The school district is comprised of 5 high schools, 10 middle schools, and 35 elementary schools. The school has been part of the school district for 23 years. The enrollment of the school at the time of the study was 706 students, 46% are female, and 53% are male. The orchestra program in this school consists of 5 orchestra classes that meet for 50 minutes a day, 5 days a week. The current enrollment in the orchestra program is 99 students. Participants involved in this study are enrolled in the 8th grade orchestra, which is one of the 5 orchestra classes offered within the school course offerings. This orchestra class is an elective course. The class is comprised of 22 students, 7 male and 15 female. These students are in their 4th year of study on their instrument. The entire class is participating in this study. During the first 4 days of research, students listened to 1 selection of music each day. Selections were 2 to 5 minutes in length. In order to avoid persuasion, No explanation or information of the piece's history or composer were given. The title of the musical work was not revealed in order to allow the students to draw their own conclusions about the music. Before listening, each student was given a template with instructions for the writing process. The instructions were discussed as a class to ensure each student understood the process of listening and writing. The music selections were then played twice. The first time the selection was played, the students recorded brief statements or words in the thoughts section of the template. This provided a word bank for the students to use to help generate a paragraph containing a minimum of 6 to 7 sentences. The selection was then played a second time, after which the students would begin to write their paragraph. Students were given 5 minutes to complete their paragraphs. Upon completion of the writing, the paragraphs were collected. During the second set of writings, the musical selections were each played twice. The first time the selection was played, the students drew a picture representing what they heard in the selection, either musically or emotionally. Students were not given any parameters on the drawing other than they needed to complete it within 5 minutes. The drawing could either be abstract or concrete. After drawing, the students were given 2 minutes to record brief statements or words in the thoughts section of the template that represented the picture and what they heard in the music. The musical selection was then played a second time. As the selection was played that second time, the students used the words recorded in the thoughts section and their visual representation of the musical selection to construct their paragraph. The title of the music work was not revealed in order to give the students an opportunity to draw on their own conclusions about the music. The instrument used to gather the quantitative data was a scoring rubric that assessed 3 areas in the student's writing: content, word choice, and voice. The rubric was developed by a language arts teacher. The researcher collaborated with the language arts teacher to score the students' writings. The scores from each set were tabulated and averaged to obtain a mean score for each set. The mean scores for each student were then analyzed to see if there was an increase or decrease in score between the 2 sets of writing to determine growth or decline in the writing performance. The writing performance of the whole class was also analyzed. Scores from each day of writing for the entire class were tabulated and averaged to obtain a mean score. A line graph was used to compare the daily mean scores for each set of writings. The next data that was analyzed was a comparison of writing scores to show the percentage of scores that increased, decreased, or stayed the same by gender. Another set of data that was analyzed was that of students whose writing improved, decreased, or was not affected by being allowed to draw before writing. The last set of data that was analyzed was that of word choice, voice, and content to see if allowing students to draw before writing affected the writing process. The mean scores for the entire class of Set 1 were compared to the mean scores of Set 2. While the first 2 days of scores for Set 1 and Set 2 showed very little difference, there was a slight change on Day 3 and Day 4. While the whole class mean score comparisons did not show significant change, as the data was further analyzed, there were some significant findings. Data shows that 64% of all students in this study had writing scores that improved. Data also showed that 32% of the students in this study had scores that decreased. Data also showed that 4% of the students in this study had writing scores that were not affected. When looking at mean scores in the area of content, voice, and word choice, the boys, when being allowed to draw, increased their scores in content and voice. Their scores of word choice decreased. Looking at girls' mean scores, in the area of content, voice, and word choice, the girls increased scores in all 3 areas. Results from this study will be disseminated among 2 groups of music educators. The first will be the building level with the researchers' music department professional learning community. The second will take place during the school district professional development day at the beginning of 2nd semester with orchestra educators. The data from this study has shown that the drawing before writing does impact the writing process. Therefore, the researcher plans to take this information forward into the spring semester of the school year and replicate this study with 6th and 7th grade orchestra students.